at EuroLuxHome.com. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. If you enjoy learning about European antiques, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and maybe even share it with a friend who might also enjoy learning about European antiques. So we're continuing on with our series about how to identify different types of wood. And today we're talking about gorgeous mahogany. Mahogany is a beautiful hardwood that has excellent workability due to its cooperative nature, meaning that it's able to be carved easily. And it also has great stability, that there's minimal shrinkage and swelling during seasonal fluctuations, and it's also rot resistant. The thing about mahogany, though, is it can be tricky to identify, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but first we'll talk about the tree itself. Mahogany is thought to be 145 million years old, and it mostly grows in tropical regions. Now, it's part of the chinaberry tree family, and cedar is actually another member of that family. But what makes it tricky is that there are over 600 varieties of mahogany, but not only that, the wood graining pattern is quite similar to other species that are not actually part of that same family. I will put up a graphic where you can see all of the trees that have that same graining pattern, and just in the middle of the graphic are the ones that are actually mahogany. Now, mahogany itself has a really interesting history. It was first brought to Europe in the 16th century. It's thought to be by the Spanish explorers or traders, because the very first use of mahogany in Europe was in the building of the largest Renaissance building in the world, and that is El Escorial, built just outside of Madrid in the late 16th century. And El Escorial was a royal palace and a monastery. It's where all of the kings since Charles V have been buried. It was built by King Philip II for his father, Charles V, who had been the Holy Roman Emperor. It is a gorgeous, huge palace, and mahogany was used for the doors and the window casings and other architectural elements, as well as some of the furniture. There are gorgeous bookcases in the very famous library in mahogany. Now, through the 16th and 17th centuries, although it had been used in El Escorial, mahogany was mostly used for shipbuilding because it was so strong and durable and rot resistant. But by the time we reach the 18th century, mahogany reaches the golden age of furniture production. We have in the 18th century the Georgian style. And if you're not familiar with Georgian style furniture, we do have another video. Go find that here on our YouTube channel, because that'll give you all the details. But the icons of Georgian style are Chippendale, Hepplewhite, and Sheraton. And mahogany was their by far wood of choice. They used it in all of their designs. And then the use of mahogany continued through the 19th century into the Victorian style. And that's because there was increased trade with Caribbean areas, South American areas, so you had a great influx of mahogany coming in that was available to be used to create gorgeous, heavily carved Victorian furniture. Now, by the time we reach the 20th century, mahogany has been overexploited. Now, through the 18th and 19th centuries, we saw the use of oak and walnut really fall down and fall out of favor because everyone was just crazy about mahogany. But by the time mahogany gets overexploited and it's not coming in as much, that coincides with the rise of interest again in oak and walnut. So now, today, mahogany is still grown in a sustainable way, and there are plantations down in tropical regions where it is grown to manufacture beautiful furniture. So, as I mentioned, mahogany can be a bit tricky to identify, but if you'll come with me, first I'll show you this gorgeous bed. This is an antique bed, and here you can see this is bright mahogany. It has some great big ribbons, and in this case it's probably easier to identify because you have these great big ribbons. That's because it's cut in a veneer, but when we come here and we're just looking at straight mahogany planks, this is where I think you can see that mahogany is actually very similar to walnut. So here's walnut, and you see these very fine, long, straight graining pattern. And then you come over to mahogany, it's really quite the same, this long, straight, thin graining pattern. For me, besides the color, which color is not as reliable, this has a warm golden tone, which is common with walnut, and this has that deep reddish brown color to it that mahogany does, but the difference is that mahogany itself has a natural luster to the wood, and it has a slight reflective quality to the wood. So there's just, as you look at it, you can see a bit of a reflection versus the walnut where you don't have that reflection. It's a little bit more dull or flat, and this has a bit more depth of reflection to it. But besides when it's just the straight graining pattern, that's what's tricky. But when we start talking about crotch mahogany, which is mahogany that's cut for veneers, if you come down and look on this desk panel, I think you can see now it becomes very easy to identify. Now, what is crotch mahogany? Crotch mahogany is you take the tree trunk and then it's where it starts to branch out for the branches, and that V area is where the crotch of the tree is, and that's where it's cut. So here in this panel, I think you can see that V running, and that's how you can identify crotch mahogany. But it's also, you may have heard the term flame mahogany, and that's also part of mahogany where it's cut to create that beautiful flame-like pattern. It has a very unique aesthetic that is just striking. Our Victorian king bed has beautiful flame mahogany veneer panels that are just gorgeous. So mahogany has been used to create fine furniture for a long time, and it is still being used to do so. I hope that you have enjoyed learning about mahogany. If I can answer any questions, or feel free to make a note in the comments below. But otherwise, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and maybe even share it with a friend who might also enjoy learning about how to identify mahogany. See you next time.